Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. The last video that I made on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the meltdown that she was having over the Supreme Court decision to end affirmative action and BTFO student loan forgiveness, I jokingly titled the video, "Please do not send this meme to AOC." Well, in today's video, definitely don't send this basic census data to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on Twitter, because you might just decimate her entire worldview. Holy frickin' moly, you know, it's crazy how somebody can tweet something in such a self-righteous manner, as if it's something we should all be outraged over, but anybody with two working brain cells and basic understanding of demographics takes a look at the tweet, takes a look at the numbers that she's posting, and can instantly put two and two together and come to the conclusion that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, well, let's just say isn't the brightest light bulb. You guys aren't gonna believe this. I honestly cannot believe that these people are real. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, your typical leftist talking point. It sounds good. It sounds like injustice. It sounds like they're fighting for something that's righteous, but like usual, it ends up being downright stupid. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweets, "If SCOTUS was serious about their ludicrous colorblindness claims, they would have abolished legacy admissions, aka affirmative action, for the privilege. 70% of Harvard's legacy applicants are white. SCOTUS didn't touch that, which would have impacted them and their patrons." And of course, social justice warriors on Twitter are eating this up. But instantly as I read this tweet, and probably you guys are on the same page as me, we probably shared a very similar reaction. Well, I don't know, this number seems to check out. From their perspective, 70% of Harvard legacy applicants are white. The horror! All the legacy applicants experiencing this extreme form of privilege, having a leg up in the application process, 70% of them are white! The horror, it's an injustice! Until of course you realize, well, isn't roughly 70% of the population white? Little Google search, population percentage USA. Enter. White Americans are Americans who identify as white people. This group constitutes the majority of people in the United States. According to the 2020 census, 71% or 235 million people were white alone or in combination, and 61.6%, 204 million people were white alone. This represented a national white demographic decline from 72.4% white alone share of the US population in 2010. Well, would you look at that? It seems as though even within the world of extreme privilege and nepotism, in the world of Harvard's legacy admissions, or at least the applications themselves, the race split is totally representative of the actual population of the country. I mean, what are we fighting here? Now, honestly, I don't know exactly where I stand when it comes to legacy applications. I find for the most part it's a distraction. Not exactly sure that it's unconstitutional in the same way that race-based admissions would be. You know, these colleges and universities are private entities. They have societal and financial connections to families, you know, long-standing Harvard family legacies. If these schools want to give those people beneficial treatment, is it meritocratic? Is it fair? Maybe not, but it certainly isn't race-based discrimination. The whole thing's a distraction, and it's such a dumb distraction. It's such a poorly thought-out distraction. Leftoids aren't making the point that they think they're making. Oh, the horror. They're trying to claim that legacy admissions are, I guess, a form of white privilege, when it seems totally fair to me. I'd like to see the rest of the racial split, to be completely honest. How many of those people are Asian, Black, Hispanic? It's the perfect representation of left-wing thinking, identifying problems where problems don't actually exist, and being total, complete, utter hypocrites in the process. Here's a beautiful meme. Everyone should be treated equally. Okay, well then schools can no longer use race as a factor in their admission policies. No, not like that. Don't you see that white privilege is a thing, and that 70% of legacy admissions or legacy applicants are white? 70%? Well, you don't say. You mean exactly correlating with the racial population percentage of white people? How dare you?
This is all wrong. How dare you You have stolen my dreams.
I don't get what point that these leftoids are trying to make. What's the argument here? That you're outraged that white people are applying to top colleges and universities? You know, I'd even argue that these people are racist. The way these leftoids mercilessly go after white people, try to demonize white people, in the most disingenuous way that you could possibly imagine, it's simply disgusting. Because you know, as we always say, if you simply changed the word white for black, well then all of a sudden, you could just imagine the outrage. These leftoids are completely out of control, they're completely out of their minds, they're ignorant of the basic facts, and they're frankly hateful. And speaking of these leftoids being out of their mind, especially on this issue, not only are they now demonizing white people for simply being represented in what seems to me in perfectly egalitarian manner, their response, their rhetoric, now targeting the Supreme Court, is equally as crazy. AOC is calling to subpoena and impeach Supreme Court justices.
Ethics guidelines, where we see members of the Supreme Court potentially breaking the law, as we saw in the refusal, with Clarence Thomas to recuse himself from cases implicating his wife in January 6th. There also must be impeachment on the table. We have a broad level of tools to deal with misconduct, overreach, and abuse of power. And the Supreme Court has not been receiving the adequate oversight necessary in order to preserve their own legitimacy. And in the process, they themselves have been destroying the legitimacy of the court, which is profoundly dangerous for our entire democracy.
Here's a former Obama aide pushing for structural reform, aka court packing of SCOTUS.
Oh, great question. So I do think that he should consider structural reform of the court. What we've seen in this last week in the Supreme Court decisions have been a rollback of our constitutional rights and protections, and a rollback of adherence to precedent. We have a Supreme Court that has functionally gone rogue when it comes to our constitutional protection.
The Supreme Court has gone rogue. We need to pack the Supreme Court. We need to impeach Justice Thomas and subpoena the rest of these rogue actors. For what? For simply upholding the Constitution as it was written? For ending racism? Actual systemic racism within college admissions? We need to tear down legacy applications. Why? Because they're perfectly representative of the actual population? I don't get it. And it all comes back to the same point. It's just so difficult to have a conversation with these people because they're living on a different planet. A planet of make-believe. They see racism where it doesn't exist. They see injustice where it doesn't exist. They're jealous, vengeful, spiteful, angry, miserable. And then they have public officials and thought leaders and celebrities like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez taking advantage of it and grifting in the most manipulative way imaginable. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. You know that we would love to have you here. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you on the next one.